You got your start in politics by interning for both former Congressman Dick Gephardt and former Senator Paul Simon. So tell us, what drew you to politics?
Well, it was when I was on my college campus. I was the president of the College Democrats, no surprise, at the University of Illinois. And I worked on really local races, helping to elect great candidates for county clerk, for state house. And so that was really when I became an activist on the student campus. I worked really hard on voter registration drives and urging and advocating for students to really register and vote on campus. And so that really led me to these internships. I interned, as you mentioned, for Congressman Gephardt and also Senator Simon. Senator Paul Simon is really kind of my North Star in public service. He was a great United States senator, a pragmatist, a real Midwesterner, but someone that was really able to get things done across the party aisle. And so I had the opportunity to intern for both of them, and it kind of got me the bug.
You talked about him being your North Star. How has that shaped your current month in politics? How has that helped you?
Well, I think it's about one of the things I think of former Senator Paul Simon as a true statesman, someone that was willing to really work with anyone, regardless of party, to get things done. He was a real workhorse, not a show horse. That's exactly who I consider myself to be. I want to get down to the work of the issues that are really going to impact the communities in central and southern Illinois and support working men and women. I think that's so important. When I won in this district, I will tell you, I think the message that I got from voters is we'll give you this opportunity to go to Washington, but you need to take it and not contribute to the political noise of Washington, but go there to get things done on our behalf. And so I take that really seriously. And that's why I think bipartisanship is so important, working with anyone that you can really work to find common ground with to get things done.
Senator Paul Simon has taught you about bipartisanship. That's obviously a very important theme now as we have a divided government. Democrats control the Senate, Republicans control the House. So, what do you think a divided Congress can achieve?
Well, I hope it's a farm bill. I hope that we get a farm bill done. As I said, that only comes up for discussion once every 5 years. I think that's really important for the communities that I represent, for the family farmers, for the universities and the community colleges that are really leading the way in this country in agricultural research, and also for innovative things in the agricultural space like biofuels. I was really excited. Biofuels is something that is actually produced by corn and soybean. So, two things that are produced right here in this district. And when we look at announcements like United Airlines, which they just made one a couple of weeks ago, where they'll be hopefully transitioning jet fuel to biofuels, that's a win-win for everyone, for communities in central and southern Illinois. It supports our family farmers, it lowers the cost of carbon emissions, and it saves money on gasoline, which is what I know everybody wants to see. So I'm hoping that the Farm Bill is one of those things we're going to get done in this Congress.
The Biden administration has passed a slew of bipartisan legislation over the past 2 years, like the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, the CHIPS and Science Act, the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, and the Honoring Our Pact Act, just to name a few. So aside from agriculture, are there any policy areas that you can see working with members across the aisle on?
Well, I think that one of the things that we should be really focusing in on is workforce development. Workforce development is something that I hear a lot about throughout this district from employers and from business that are facing labor shortages. And labor shortages are being felt not just from someone that might be applying to be a janitor or someone that's applying to be an engineer. It's at all levels in business. And so I think one of the things I really want to prioritize and do it on a bipartisan basis is give people the skills and the workforce training that they need to get into good paying jobs. Doesn't require a 4-year college degree. Let's invest in our community colleges, in union apprenticeship programs. Let's give people the certifications that they can to get immediately into work. We need nurses. We need teachers. We need truck drivers. Let's find those folks, get them trained and into the workforce.
Can you give us more specifics? How would you implement these workforce trainings, things like that?
So one of the things that I it will be my first piece of legislation. We're going to be introducing it in the next couple of weeks. Is an expansion of a federal tax credit for employers and for training programs that often offer pre-apprenticeship programs. Pre-apprenticeship programs are specifically helpful in some of our more underserved communities where folks are really needing the life skills to be set up to be successful in an apprenticeship or a certification program. Understanding showing up to work, how to prepare, how to plan out your public transportation to get to your job on time, how to work with your manager, team building. Those are the kind of pre-apprenticeship life skills that people are learning that then tee them up to be more successful to complete a certification program. And that'll bring in more diversity, more folks from underserved communities where we might have higher unemployment rates, get them into the workforce. So one of the things I'm really looking at is the LEAP Act and how to expand federal tax credits for those that are offering pre-apprenticeship programs.
I know you said you didn't introduce the legislation quite yet. So A, I would love to have you back on to talk about it more once it is introduced. But B, so far, would you have GOP support on this?
Well, that's what we're working on. We've had a lot of different conversations with different GOP offices. I think we do have folks that are interested. And so we're in the negotiations right now, but it's really important right now for me. I really want to make sure that as much of our legislation that we're leading on is bipartisan. So we're working to kind of nail down those final details before we do offer this legislation.
Congresswoman, based on everything you're saying now, based on your Twitter, your website, other interviews, you're saying that you're fighting for working families. That's one of your larger themes. What else are you doing to fight for the working families of this country?
Well, I think it's about people are still struggling with rising costs. I mean, we have seen some of inflation, kind of steadied, but it is still really at a very high level. So groceries still are costing a lot. Gas is still high. I know in this district, people are struggling with really high energy bills as we're still trying to heat our homes during a Midwestern winter. So it is for me about how are we prioritizing helping working people keep more of what they earn? How can they keep more in their pockets? To me, it's some simple measures. I obviously very much support middle class tax relief and middle class tax cuts. But also, I would say there are some incentives like extending the child tax credit, which helps working people that have children at home trying to figure out how to afford childcare, for example, that is still an extremely high expense. And for some people, a real barrier to getting back into the workforce. I also think building on some of the successes that this last Congress had, where they capped the cost of insulin at $35 for those on Medicare. Let's do that for everyone, for young people that are struggling with diabetes and are struggling with pain, making difficult decisions between can they pay for their insulin or are they paying for groceries that week? I think helping working people in those ways and in those respects really can make a difference.
Are we close at all at seeing those results that you just said?
Well, I think we've got a long way to go. I think in some ways that is why a Democratic or Republican majority matters and what those majority priorities are. I know for a Democratic House, that was a priority, expanding and, enabling Medicare to negotiate for lower prescription drug prices, expanding and capping the cost of insulin. The child care tax credit was also something that was definitely very much discussed during a Democratic controlled House. So I think we need to get back there. And I think we need to continue to look for candidates and to fight for a majority in the House that's going to keep working families their priority.